Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into the future?
Let's do it.
We're talking AI, specifically this discussion between Mo Gaudat and Salim Ismail called The AI Revolution, Abundance or Dystopia.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
It's a pretty intense title, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But it gets you thinking.
Totally. So they're basically trying to figure out, like, is AI going to lead us to this amazing utopia?
Or a complete societal collapse.
Right. And one thing that really blew my mind, they think AI could reach human-level intelligence as early as 2025.
Yeah, that was a big one. And they both seem to agree that AI's impact is already unfolding, like it's not some far-off thing anymore.
It's happening now.
Exactly, yeah.
So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, so something that really stood out to me was that both experts agree that AI is changing things incredibly quickly.
Like, how quickly?
Well, they use this kind of dramatic metaphor. They said it's like a warhead that's already been launched.
Whoa, okay. Intense.
Right. It definitely makes you pay attention.
So the question isn't if AI will change the world, but how, right?
Yeah, and how fast. And that's where their opinions kind of diverge a little bit. They have different timelines in mind.
Oh, interesting. So, like, what are we talking? 5 years, 10 years? Yeah. What's the range here?
But let's start with Mo Gaudat's view. He's really excited about the potential for AI to create abundance.
Abundance, like, in what sense?
He's talking about a future where AI and robots can pretty much eliminate scarcity. Like, imagine all your basic needs, food, healthcare, education, just taken care of. No more poverty, no more hunger.
That sounds amazing, but also kind of hard to wrap my head around. Like, if AI is doing all the work and providing everything we need, what do we do?
Right. What's left for us? That's a big part of what Gaudat's getting at. He thinks AI could free us from this idea that work is the only thing that gives our lives meaning.
Meaning, like, purpose.
Exactly, purpose. He even argues that maybe, capitalism has kind of distorted our sense of purpose.
By connecting our worth to our jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And Gaudat points to, like, pre-industrial societies as examples. People weren't so focused on material stuff back then. They found meaning in community, art, connection with nature.
So basically, we could end up redefining what gives us purpose.
Totally. Shifting from, like, external validation through work to more, internal fulfillment.
So it's less about what do you do for work and more about what are you passionate about.
Exactly. It's a pretty big shift.
Huge. So let's dig a little deeper into this AI-driven abundance idea. How would this actually play out in the real world?
Okay, so take medicine, for example. Imagine AI helping us cure diseases like Alzheimer's or cancer.
Wait, seriously?
How? By rapidly designing treatments based on our individual genes. This is where AI's ability to accelerate protein folding comes in.
Okay, back up a sec. Protein folding, that sounds pretty technical.
It is, but basically proteins are these complex molecules, and they need to fold into specific shapes to work properly.
Like a key fitting into a lock.
Exactly. And if they don't fold right, it can lead to all sorts of diseases. AI can help us figure out this folding process way faster than humans, which means we could develop new drugs and therapies much quicker.
Wow, so it's like AI could solve these complex puzzles in, what, minutes or hours? That would take humans years to figure out.
That's the idea.
That's incredible. But even with all this abundance, it makes you wonder, what happens to us? I mean, if work isn't necessary for survival anymore, what happens to our sense of purpose, our identity even?
Yeah, that's a big one. And it's definitely a concern that a lot of people share. How do we make sure mass unemployment doesn't lead to chaos? Salim Ismail brings up some interesting points about this.
Okay, like what?
Well, he uses historical examples. He talks about civilizations like the Roman Empire, which had periods of, huge abundance, but eventually collapsed.
Oh no, are we all destined to become like couch potatoes?
Well, maybe not. But Ismail's point is that without the need to work, humans can kind of, lose their way a little bit, become a little too focused on pleasure and comfort.
Oh, I see. So too much of a good thing can be bad. Like, too much leisure time could actually be detrimental.
It's a valid concern, yeah.
So it's not all fun and games, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
I get it, having all your needs met sounds great, but then what? Do we just kind of float around in a blissful haze?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? How do we avoid turning into a society of, unmotivated blobs?
Right. Like, what keeps us going? What gives us that drive if we don't have to work?
Ismail's point is that we've been conditioned for centuries to believe that work equals fulfillment. So if you suddenly take that away,
You mess with our heads.
yeah, like big time. He even talks about the potential for, like, widespread depression and a loss of meaning.
Whoa, okay, so this AI thing, it's not just about robots taking our jobs. It's about, like, reshaping our whole understanding of who we are.
Exactly. It's a total paradigm shift. And it feels like we're kind of facing two very different paths, right?
Yeah, like, on one hand, we have this utopian Star Trek future where AI solves all our problems, and we live in this perfect world.
Right. No poverty, no disease, no war. But
And
then,
then there's the other side of the coin, the dystopian Mad Max scenario, where everything falls apart.
right, mass unemployment, societal collapse. It's a pretty stark contrast.
So how do we, like, navigate this? How do we avoid the Mad Max route and steer towards something more, uh, Star Trek-y?
Well, the good news is it's not all doom and gloom. Both experts agree that the key is adaptation. Like, this isn't just a tech revolution, it's a human one. We need to adapt our thinking, our values, our whole way of being.
So we have to figure out what it means to be human in a world where robots can do everything.
Yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, right? But that's the challenge. And maybe, maybe we can learn something from those pre-industrial societies. They weren't so obsessed with work and material possessions.
So maybe we can find meaning in other things like community, creativity, connection to nature.
Exactly. It's about tapping into those parts of ourselves that are, intrinsically human.
But how do we make sure everyone has the chance to do that? What about, like, inequality?
That's a huge concern, for sure. If only the wealthy elite get to enjoy this AI utopia.
It's not a win for humanity.
Exactly. We have to figure out how to distribute the benefits of AI fairly. Like, some people talk about universal basic income as a potential solution.
Right, so everyone has a safety net, regardless of whether they have a job or not. It's kind of like when I first heard about self-driving cars, it seemed so far-fetched. But now it's becoming reality. This whole AI thing feels even bigger.
Oh, absolutely. And it's happening way faster than we realize. Godot even thinks we're talking about like a 5-year timeline for some major changes.
5 years, that's nothing.
I know. Ismail's a little more conservative. He's thinking more like 10 years.
Which is still crazy fast when you think about it. But hold on, what about people who actually enjoy their work? What about those of us who find meaning in what we do?
Yeah, that's a good point. Not everyone's going to be thrilled about not having to work, but even for those people, I think the nature of work is going to change dramatically.
So maybe it's not about eliminating work entirely, but like transforming it into something more meaningful.
Exactly. We might see a rise in jobs that focus on creativity, collaboration, things that AI can't do. Jobs that tap into our uniquely human abilities.
Like empathy and problem solving.
Exactly. So instead of being afraid of AI, maybe we should be thinking about how we can partner with it, how we can use AI to create a better future for everyone.
So it's not about robots taking over, it's about working together.
Right. And that's ultimately what both experts are advocating for. They believe the future of AI is really a reflection of us, our choices, our ability to adapt and evolve.
So it's not a predetermined utopia or dystopia, it's something we actively shape.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
pretty empowering when you think about it.
It is. I mean, we've covered so much ground here. AI abundance, the potential for losing our sense of purpose, the need to adapt. It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But let's get practical. What can we actually do to prepare for all of this? Like, what can we do as individuals to navigate these massive changes? It's mind-blowing, right? Like, where do we even start?
Well, I think the first step is just being aware. Like you said, it's a lot to process. But just by having these conversations, by engaging with this stuff, we're already ahead of the game.
Okay, so awareness is key. But then what? What can we actually do?
That's where lifelong learning comes in. Like, the skills that are valuable today might be totally useless tomorrow, so we have to be constantly learning and evolving.
Oh, great. So we all have to go back to school.
Not necessarily formal education, but just a commitment to continuous learning. Online courses, workshops, reading, just staying curious.
So it's more about a mindset than a specific degree.
Yeah, exactly. Being open to new things, embracing change, being willing to learn and adapt. And it's not just about, technical skills. We also need to foster creativity and critical thinking. Those are things AI can't replicate.
So we can't just become passive consumers of information. We have to actually use our brains, come up with our own ideas.
Exactly. And another thing, this might sound kind of old-fashioned, but we need to focus on building strong communities, fostering human connection.
Because at the end of the day, we're social creatures. Robots can't replace that need for belonging.
Right. Having meaningful relationships, contributing to our communities, making a positive impact on the world, those things will become even more important as AI changes everything.
Okay, so to recap, Stay informed, never stop learning, be creative, build community. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Well, one thing that really stuck with me from the discussion was Goddard's question about purpose. He asked, if AI could meet all our material needs, what would we dedicate our lives to?
That's a really good question. If we didn't have to work, what would we actually want to do?
It really makes you think about what truly matters, what gives us meaning beyond just, survival and productivity.
And that's what we should all be asking ourselves, right? What do we want our lives to be about in this AI-powered future?
Absolutely. And I think exploring that question could lead to some pretty amazing discoveries.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive. We've explored a lot of complex ideas, and there's no easy answers.
But it's a conversation we need to keep having.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, we challenge you to think about that question of purpose. If AI could give you ultimate freedom, what would you do with it?
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep imagining the future.